This is recording, yeah. I thought we're recording there.
Okay, welcome back. Wait. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Everyday Gents. It's your boy Captain, it's your bro Puzzo, and today we got another bro, Bali, bro, uncle, cousin.
I'm still a light
In between.
An everyday gent.
Yes, we got Mr. Darian Smith in the house. Well, actually, we're in his house today, guys. Very, very nice house. Thank you for having us on the show,
Thank you for
Darian.
coming through. It's a pleasure.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's get right into it because we film late on weeknights for you all. We sacrifice our time for you all. Tell us, bro. Well, tell us and the viewers a bit about yourself in 2024. Who is Darian Smith?
Darian Smith is a student right now. I'm doing my PhD in peace studies.
Isn't PhD a doctor? Don't you become a doctor?
Yeah.
So
it'll be
So I
Dr.
said
Darian.
doctor.
Yeah, you can just call
Yeah.
me Doc. Right.
Wow.
Doc D.
Doc D. So in 2024, I think, and I pray that this is my final year.
Yeah.
So this will be my third year of my doctorate.
Yeah.
And hopefully something comes out of it. I'm a father more than anything else. I've got 3 sons. So from 2010 until present day, 2024, I am a father. I've got 3 sons, Kale, Cole, and Kai. I'm a community worker, community activist, not exclusive to Wentworth alone, but across the country, across the world, just trying to make things better.
When you say across the world, so that implies you've traveled with this journey that you're on.
Yeah. More specifically, the US. I just got back from the US about 2 months ago. I was there for a couple of days, speaking at a world conference regarding my Community Fathers project that I'm busy with. It's got to do with my PhD.
Okay.
So that's where I am currently.
Okay. So you said that you're doing this peace thing, right? Now I want to ask you a question. There's a lot of wars that's happening around the world. For example, you always see people saying, pray for this, pray for that.
Yeah.
There's war in Gaza now and everything. What does your role or job have to do with any of that? Do you have some sort of, like, if you get whatever you get, this doctor thing, would you be able to, what does that mean for situations like that?
Let me start off with, firstly, the doctorates is really just to give me more knowledge, more understanding of what's going on. I think in order to be able to deal with many of these issues, you've got to be able to have the knowledge on how to do it. So that's what I'm actually seeking, the knowledge, the understanding, the wisdom, to be able to confront issues such as that, to deal with issues like that. So I've been doing this for a very long time, for about 24 years, 23, 24 years, working in community. And where I come from, it's about how do we make things better? How do we have better conversations? How are we able to align? How are we able to form these synergies in order for us to do things better? How to have the right kind of conversation? I think the reason why wars exist is because people are not talking enough. I also think that wars exist because of greed. I think people benefit on poverty. War's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. And we've got those people that, or sometimes behind the scenes or even in front, that are pushing that war agenda. And it got to do with the minerals, it got to do with the oil, the gold, the diamonds, and many things. And for me, my role in many of these things is to be able to walk in and having people speak right, mediate, how do we come together. So it may seem all like a pie in the sky and unicorns and fairy tales, but I still do believe that should we have the right kind of conversation, we can do so much more.
How does such big thinking and big picture vision having, for lack of a better term, how does that impact your day-to-day life here in the communities that we share, here as a father, as a family man? How does that change the way, or how does that shape the way you direct your family?
the thing is, I believe things are taught in the home. I'll always start off there. I think if we start to form better families or start to support families, encourage families, when people step out their door and they have this ethos, this moral fiber, this foundation of respect, honor, integrity, and they walk into the street, they're able to then carry those things out. This is the unfortunate thing, is not many homes have that kind of stability. So as a result of that, there's such anger, there's such hostility. People are dealing with so much. And when they go out into the streets, that's when some of these things start to manifest and they start to behave in certain ways. Take, for example, our communities where gangsterism is rife. Gangsterism is formed because young people are looking for a sense of belonging. And as a result of not having that sense of belonging, they start to meet up with that same kind of peer system, who are also struggling with the very same things within their own home. And they form these cliques. Because truth be told, gangsters and drug dealers give our young people more sense of belonging than what our families actually do. So if we start with our families, I think that we'll start to deal with the issues a lot more better. We are able to move into different spaces, and only because the family system is stable. If the family system is stable, our young people will be able to thrive.
Are you able to share with us a bit about your upbringing? Like, where did you start? How did you get to this point of being the Darian Dr. D. Smith?
I grew up in Newlands East. And I was there for a very long time. But lots of my family is from Wentworth. So I used to navigate between those spaces. But the one thing that I did see were families and young people struggling because they weren't the most appropriate role models, the appropriate mentors, the kind of people in our communities that are able to guide. And I thought to myself, I'd like to be a part of the solution. You know, you're growing up in townships, and what you see quite often is a lot of violence, drugs, rape, domestic abuse, and most importantly, people without a vision. Our young people are growing up, and what I was witnessing, don't have a plan. So I thought, if I step into the party as well and join the rest of my other peers of trying to kind of guide and navigate, and then maybe things will get better. And I worked a lot. I studied a lot. Imagine, as a young man, you're going into a course called Child and Youth Development. What the rest of your bras are going to say.
I was going to say, that must have been a weird one, huh?
Now, I wasn't the weird one until I started that.
Yeah.
So because I was one of the O's, you know what I mean? Doing things, part of things, busy with things. And I said, that's not my life. That's not something that I want to aspire to. And the fortunate part is that I had good parents, and still have good parents, a mother and a father that were always there, that guided me, supported me. And as a result of that, all I'm doing these days, all I've been doing for all of this time, I should say, is imparting the lessons and the values that my father has instilled in me onto other young men and other young women. So it's just kind of passing on, paying it forward. And then I worked a lot. I mean, 16, 17 hours a week. I mean, sleep was a privilege. Working in various places like children's homes, street shelters, you name it, I worked it, especially in the social development realm. That's what I was a part of. Which led me to that place of, I can do so much more if I learn so much more, if I'm surrounded by the right kind of people to guide me. So along the way, I kind of gathered mentors, people that have traveled the road, and learned those lessons to be able to do what I do better.
Have you ever got into trouble before in your life? Like, messed around with the O's?
Lots of trouble. But I won't even discuss that now. Lots of trouble.
You think that helped, like, you know?
Yeah, of course, because there's a mix. I mean, you can't work with. I work with gangs. I work with lots of people that are probably doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
But in order to do that, the university was not going to teach me that. I had to have traveled that road to be able to know how to do it.
University of Hard Knocks.
Hard knocks knocked me to my feet, off my feet.
Yeah, we all got out actually from those ones. Yeah.
But as I say, the good part, no matter what you be knocked down with, if the family system was strong enough, they were able to pull you away from that.
Yeah.
You know that story of the prodigal son? He wanted to explore the world.
Yes.
And he went out there and done that, very much like me. But I knew where home was. So, and I was taught in the right kind of way, the right direction. But even though we steer away from it, because the foundation was laid, you were able to come back.
Correct.
And that's where, yeah.
Yeah, I see you very focused, and you're very rooted in family, you may call it essentials. And you mentioned something earlier, something about, I think it's community fathers. What is that about, community fathers? Can you tell us a bit about that?
Okay, let me give you a little bit of background to that. I was working for an organization called the National Institute of Crime Prevention and the Reintegration of Offenders. That's NICRO.
How do you even remember that?
Because I was with them.
Working for it, yeah.
I was with them for, I think, like 12 years.
So by the name,
years.
I'm guessing it's about reintroducing people
back into society.
So,
Yes.
I had a friend, right? I'll tell you a small story.
Your face looks familiar. Were you at NICRO too?
Never.
I'm sure not, bro.
Never. I had a friend, right? He accidentally stole wine gums when he was walking out.
Oh, which just fell in his pocket.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
They stopped him at Spar, went to Spar. And they told him, you know what, that. He's like, hey, it accidentally fell in my pocket, let's go do necro.
Yeah.
But he never went to did necro. So I don't know if, number one, did that put a record on his name because he didn't go and do that. He said it's like where you have to go and do community service or whatever. So can you give us a bit more insight into what that actually is?
So I started at NICRO, I think I must have been about 19. And what they were basically doing was that if a young person, or even an adult for that matter, commits a crime, depending on what the crime is, they would be referred to NICRO, and we would do rehabilitative programs to divert them away from the criminal justice system, so they don't land up with a criminal record, they don't land up in jail. So here's the prosecutor sending a letter through and say, this guy stole wine gums, doing a psychological assessment of him, see what it is that his needs may be, and then put him in an appropriate program. So it was more than just community service. There was individual counseling, there's family group conferencing, where you bring the family together and work on things so that family can thrive. There was victim offender mediation, where you bring the offender and the victim together and form you do some kind of mediation with them so that there can be peace. But I focused and I specialized in a program called The Journey. And The Journey would take high-risk young people that committed a series of crimes. And I would take these young people, be it 12 boys or 12 girls, up into the mountains for a period of time. So I was doing it all climbing, abseiling. It was wilderness therapy. And in the mountains, in the bush, you're living there with these 12 boys, or you're living with these 12 girls.
Like Boy Scouts.
It's so much higher than Boy Scouts. and we'd live there. And I would help them to form a community. How does a community function? So we do things like I'd send them out into the wild. They'd spend time alone, doing things called solos, where there's a theme in which they must then figure out for themselves. For example, I'd say to them, I'd give them a journal. Go speak about all the good things that have happened in your life. They'd go out for a couple of hours. They'd come back. We'd sit around the fire and we discuss that. These good things, the anchors in your life. Send them out. All the bad things that have happened in your life, they come back, we discuss it, we debrief it. We kind of move them into that space of being able to talk, let out those things that have been bothering them. And you hear so much. I think there is the program itself is extremely, extremely intense. That when the boys are about to leave with the mountains, they hate me to bits. When it's time to leave the mountains, they don't want to leave me. They want to stay with me now because they then become
tribal council. It's an idea, actually,
And it was one of the most successful programs in Africa in terms of rehabilitating young people. It's not happening ever since I left. That was about more than 12 years ago I left them. And I did that program for a long period of time. As I said, it had one of the highest success rates. these young people would come back with a different focus, a different vision. We'd help them help them to see their value and help them to see their worth, help them to see what is out there for them and the people that they need to have in their life. Because a lot of our young people don't have the opportunity to speak. And as a result of that, it becomes like a balloon. You're blowing in a balloon and you eventually explode. So these young people that I would see to had exploded already. Community didn't want them. Schools didn't want them. And it was really just about showing them a new way of living. And they would come back and I would have provided support for them for more than a year. I've got still thousands of kids that I'm in contact with who are doing really, really well, who are successful in their careers. I'm invited to their weddings, to their children's baptisms, to their graduations. You name it, they become a part of the family where we help and support one another. And kids from all different races, cultures, creeds.
I just want to ask before you explain that, what is it for this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Who sponsors these things?
So Necro was funded. So, sorry man, I didn't answer your question. So the thing was that I was watching that these young people would be rehabilitated to a degree. They're passionate, they have a vision. Then they'd come back home. But the home is a mess. The home is a mess. There's nobody to help them, to support their journey. And they'd go back to their old ways. And over time, I worked in different organizations. But I was still drawn to how do I bring fathers into the picture. And then I was blessed enough to start my PhD, and that then became my study. Community fathers co-creating with me safer spaces in the community of Wentworth. So ultimately what I've done is that I've brought fathers together, getting fathers from the community. I take them through a training course. I kind of share with them the skills that I have, and what their role is to do is to go out into the community and build meaningful relationships with the children that are in the community. Because if I'm not mistaken, absentee father rate is something like 67% in this country. So a lot of young people are growing up without fathers, without mentors. So I'm saying to the fathers, let's go be there for these children. Because if we're talking about Ubuntu, we're talking about community, we're talking about family, it's your role. If you live in that street and there are children there that are absent, have no fathers, that's your job. Go and graph. Go and show that child. Go and be there for that child. Don't let him turn to a gang to find that support and that encouragement and that guidance. Let him turn to you. Let's see how that works. So my community fathers are designing and developing projects which then they then go out into the community to draw the young people in to them. It's more or less something like a big brother, but in the role of community father.
I see. So all of this is very, I'd say, off the regular part. Not everybody wakes up and decides, hey, listen, this is what I want from my life. Can you tell us about what was, if there was a trigger or if there was a specific moment that you can remember where you said, today, this is not for me, or today, this is what I want instead? Did anything specific happen, or was it a compounding of experiences over the years where you, like a balloon, had enough and you burst, you're like, no, it's enough now. Something has to change. What was it that changed your mind from parking with the O's to community fathers and stuff like that?
Well, you see, I mean, we grew up, truth be told, in colored communities. We see what's going on around them. I'm coming home to a father and a mother where I'm getting all the love and the guidance and support, but my bras are not going home to families where they have that kind of support. And I said, but why is this happening? You start questioning these things. And then when you're waking up and you're hearing somebody had been murdered, a friend had been murdered, a family member had been murdered, you see them shooting, you see them stabbing. Back in when I was growing up, it wasn't so much shooting, it was more stabbing. Things have changed a lot. And those were the triggers for me. Sometimes you can see what's going on around you and you want to do something about it. And there's the other side where people see what's going on but are so immune, so desensitized where it doesn't bother them anymore. But for me, where I'm very sensitive, I felt everything deeply, even if I didn't know the person that had been killed.
Yeah.
Even if I didn't know the family, where I can hear them screaming and shouting and fighting, and the mother getting beaten up, or the man coming all drunk and doing what he's doing. Now you're seeing these things and you're saying, but it shouldn't be that way. The only reason why I was able to identify it shouldn't be that way, because I came from a home where it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
It was a home of love and care. So you're making the comparison and you're saying, no, I can't see this anymore, and I want to do something about it. And that was my trigger. I wanted to do something about it. So every day when I wake up, most days, some days, you feel like you don't want to do this anymore. It's a painful thing. It's so going to go and deal with the rape case.
Doesn't it get tiring, or doesn't it take from you as well?
It eats you up.
Yeah.
It eats you up like a cancer.
Yeah.
You feel sick. You constantly traumatized. It's like a repeat. It's like a repeat. Imagine listening to a story 1,000 times, 2,000, 3,000 times, and you're hearing the hurt, the pain, the abuse. Eventually you take it on.
Yeah.
So it's not just like sometimes any other profession. When you walk into your house, you walk in and you can leave your work at work.
Yeah.
When I walk in, I have to be conscious of dusting my feet, because now I've got a family to take care of. I've got my kids to see to.
Yeah.
But the good part is that when you lay down at night, as much as it sometimes can be some of the nightmares, the flashbacks of the things you've had to deal with, you remember that you helped a family.
Yeah.
You put yourself out there. So when you're going to bed at night, you're going to bed with a heavy heart, but you are satisfied that you did the best that you could that day. The pain is real. So many young people that come into this profession must understand that in order for you to have, what's that word, longevity,
Correct.
if you got to have a support system.
Yeah.
You got to have a base. And who's my base? Is a lot of my professors, a lot of my friends that keep you grounded, because you can get carried away. You want to save the whole world, and that's not realistic.
How do you find these people that you talking about, like these kids that you took to a certain place or whatever? How do you find them? Do they come to you? Do they get in touch with you, or how do you find them? Like?
Before, they were referred to me. They were referred to me from the court or school or from a community. Get the letter, see what's the problem, and then I do the assessment. These days, it's more of us going to go and find them. Because out of the 10 bras that are doing wrong, maybe only 2 of them get caught, but what about the other 8 that are still there?
Yeah.
So in order to go and help the people, you got to go to the people. So what I do now is go to the people. So I gather up more soldiers, which are the community fathers. It's your job to identify and go and deal. Go and see, go to the people.
Where do we go where? Like,
Community.
people's doors, you just go, aha.
I mean, our communities are very small. So people talk. They'll say, there's Tommy. That's not a colored name. But there's Tommy.
Toto.
Toto. There's Toto. Toto's having a problem. Can somebody go talk to Toto? And then what happens is we go there, speak to the family. The family, people contact us constantly. Because I've been doing this for a long time, I'm known in the field of dealing with young people.
Yeah.
And families for that matter. So people call me. My phone doesn't stop ringing.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. Yeah.
So have you ever came up against confrontation or distrust or even not been wanted when you approach these families from a place of wanting to help?
All the time.
Yeah, like what are some of the challenges? That's what I was
Yeah.
also going to ask. What are some of the challenges you face in this thing?
Sometimes people come to you. They say, my child is smoking dagga.
Yeah.
I sit down with their child and I do an assessment. I find out that their child is doing more than dagga. I'm finding out that the child is doing wunga, tuk, all of these funny things. And also, in the way I work with a young person, they somehow find trust, and then they start to talk to me about the things that they've done. So they came for dagga. But at the end of this conversation with this child, they were doing I'm saying buttons, heroin, tuk. They're doing all these funny drugs. But they also stabbed 2 people. So sometimes I sit with the parents and say, but your son stabbed 2 people. These are the drugs. No, that can't be my son. It was just dagga. It was just that. So you find some parents don't want to admit or don't want to see what the truth is. and they become enablers. He's doing it because he doesn't have a father. He's doing this here because he doesn't have a mother. He's doing this because of A, B, and C. But the reality is, if we just acknowledge, take responsibility for what we're doing, then we can move forward and do the right thing. Sometimes I've dealt with gangs. Because if you're taking a child out of a gang, you're taking a child out of drugs, you've got to have an alternative. You don't take a child out of a gang to just now leave him. He's out of the gang, then what happens next? They got to go into a program. They got to have a project. They got to have a support system. They got to have the guidance. If you're taking a child off drugs, then what's the alternative? What do? Do you just leave them now? They're off the drugs and you move away? No. You then find with them. They must become... See, any clients I deal with, they got to be a part of the problem solving. They got to deal with this with us. I can't make a decision for your life. You got to tell me what you also want and let me see how best I can support you in getting that. You don't just pull somebody. You got to make sure that there's alternatives of which they can explore. Yeah. I'm also working for the Human Science Research Council, the HSRC. It's one of the biggest research bodies in the country.
Okay, now how do you do all of that? We struggling to do our normal 9 to 5 with things alone. How do you do necro? What this father thing?
As a necro?
Science, this footballing ones. How do you do all of that? How do you and still be a dad? Anyway, by the way, welcome back. How do you do all that?
Then I worked for Activate Change Drivers. And that was taking young people from across the country, bringing them all together with this kind of social cohesion kind of thing, where people are coming together and we are teaching them on how to be able to articulate themselves, on how to navigate the socio-political landscape, on how to drive change, how to be an activist, but not just going out there and screaming, we want more. It's about how do we create programs where people can get their dignity back, how we can change the face of this country by different races standing together, different cultures, creeds standing together and saying we want more for our country. So we train young people on how to do that. So I was with Activate for a couple of years, I think more than 8 years, if I'm not, maybe shorter. And then I was their national quality manager, overseeing all projects and programs and kind of assessing if they're making impact. Then I worked for KZN Network on Violence Against Women, where I was coordinating the Brothers for Life movements, and that was getting men to stand up against abuse, but also creating the platform of where men can have a conversation, because men don't have conversations. So we were doing that for a period of time. And then I landed up with the Human Science Research Council, where we're looking at what's going on the ground, what's happening, what are people thinking, how are people behaving, and we design and we do the research, send it through, and those recommendations we provide to governments and the likes to be able to implement programs. And then of course the PhD that is running parallel to that, and the soccer and all of these things. So you find the time.
What do you find the government's willingness to act on information given by you all is?
So we could provide the recommendations. All of the work that we do is grounded by the research that we do. And with those recommendations, government decides whether or not they want to implement some of those recommendations that we do, that we provide. I think more expertise needs to exist within these government structures. And if there's more expertise and people knowing on how to do it, then our country would look a lot more differently. But just to go back to your question, how do I find the time? I think because I love what I do, because I'm passionate for change. It doesn't feel like work. I mean, if there wasn't this thing called sleep, I'd probably work 24 hours a day. I'm driven by wanting to see change. I'm driven by communities prospering and growing. I'm driven by wanting to see no more pain and hurt. I'm driven by wanting more for our people. And who are our people? Not just colored people, but our Indian, our black, our white people. There's so much tension is illicit. There's so much tension that has been created that we are enemies. For me, everybody comes with a skill set, and if we're only able to identify that skill set and put it together, the whole is more than some of its parts. We can do so much more. So my energy is always there. Whether I'm sick, even right now, I'm not well.
Yeah.
But if somebody calls me to come and help, I'm going to go out there, irrespective, regardless of where I find myself. And most importantly, the reason why I want change is because I want my children to grow up in a world. And I think Martin Luther King said that where our children can play, our children can laugh, our children can just be. I do this job because I want to create a better world for my children.
That's a pipe dream, though, don't you think? Like, let's be honest. That's a pipe dream.
Or a better question is, realistically speaking, do you think you or your kids will survive to eat the fruits of the tree you are planting now?
That's possible. I think that's
I
possible.
won't eat it. My children might.
Yeah, I
So
think
what I'm
that's
really
possible.
doing with the many of my peers, many of my colleagues, is trying to plow this land. Because why do you wake up in the morning? What makes you wake up in the morning?
Yeah.
You
As I'm
wake
saying,
up.
I think that's possible.
Yeah.
Past trauma wakes me up in the morning.
But you wake up. Because we believe in a thing called hope. Whether you call it that or not, you wake up because you hope for a better day. You hope for a better life. You hope for things. That's the only reason why people wake up.
Hey, YOLOs are living different lives to me. I wake up to nothing but stress and problems.
But you still wake up.
It's because my body's tired of sleeping.
100%.
One day that the stress and problems will go away.
I gave up on hope. Like I gave up on losing weight.
But that's the thing that
I get,
drives us.
I get what
Hope.
you're saying. 100%.
Hope.
100%. It sounds very... I won't lie. It's so far out of the norm, especially from us from Dakali. Because we know what we've experienced, what we've seen. This sounds like we're going to go film a Disney movie now.
That's what I'm saying. It's almost like a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Because it's like, bro, and you know what? I'm saying this, right? Always like you are important and necessary.
Yes.
Because I feel like if we didn't have always like you, we would have been a lot more worse off than we currently are now, right?
Yeah.
You've probably with your program saved, as we said, thousands of kids. So it is necessary. But he asked a good question. How was your information that you give about these things received by government? And that's why it sounds like a pipe dream, because I don't feel like
Michael Jackson said it best. They don't really care about...
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like, it's like we do all of this and then it's like...
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, some mornings, and truth be told, where you go to bed really despondent. You feel like you just can't do this anymore. You're exhausted to the core. You just feel like, why am I even doing this? Because I'm not seeing any change. And then you get a call, and it's a simple call that says, thank you. You've made it. You really helped me. I'm doing so much better. That's in that moment where you feel like you want to give up. You see, the work that we do, we're not expecting instantaneous results. I was explaining this to a group that I was training in the week, last week, Saturday, that the work we do is called an inexact science, where when you work with somebody, you don't know what the outcome might be. Whereas if you work an exact science, is if you put sulfur and some other chemical together, you know what that compound is going to be. With the work we do, we don't know. We can only but hope that things are going to be better. You can only but hope that that person is going to understand certain things. So with that hope, every little victory we have, we put it in our bag. You grab all those moments of hope. So you pull those moments of hope out when you're not feeling strong enough to go out there. I mean, like you said, imagine if myself and many of the bras that I do the craft with step out of what does that look like? What would communities look like? Where the government chooses to implement what it is that we've recommended, it doesn't mean that we stop. And that's the thing, us as a people need to realize that the power lies with us. Why do we have to wait for somebody to come and make things jump in our districts? Why do we have to wait for somebody to bring matcha and put it in our hands to be able to do the craft? Is our need to see the community so shallow that we need somebody else to come do it for us? Many of my bras and myself included are doing things where we're saying people can be self-dependent. Why do I need to look at government with faces I don't even know, when I've got a neighbor that can help me get to the place where I need to be. So we're looking at what does active citizenry look like? What does active participation looks like? And sometimes we take 10 steps forward and 11 steps back. But we just keep on moving, we keep on grinding, irrespective of whether we have the funds or not. All my projects I don't deal with money. I don't deal with funding. I don't put a cent in my hand. If I want to do a graph in the district and I call on Braz, I call on Spa, I call on whoever. I say, can you give me 10 cents of baked beans, please? Call a bakery, can you give me 12 loaves of bread? Let me make a baked beans bunny, you check. We're calling on what we have existing in the community. Why do I have to wait for somebody to come and do it for me? Is this not my district? There's the dirt outside. It's my district. I know that the O's are getting paid, government is getting paid to do it, but the government is not coming to pick up the dirt, so what do I do? I leave that dirt there. What is the thing that my lighty sees first when he's going to school? He sees dirt. He sees dirt. When he goes into the school, what is he thinking of? Dirt. And then how does he behave? Like dirt. If we are able, that's why I said it starts in the home. We're helping young people to see the possibilities of what if we pick that dirt up. It's my home, Mixie. Why must I have rats running in front of my posy?
Mind you, remember we were speaking about the cleanup that I did? I was the one that initiated, but I phoned Darren and I was like, Darren, I'm doing a cleanup, I need this, I need that, I need vans, I need this and that. And he went and he did everything of that. So that wasn't his color, it wasn't his area. But to make Wentworth a better place, we did it.
So the narrative of product of your environment, you're trying to shine a positive light on that.
Yeah, because when you hear all the bad stories, you see Wentworth, Newlands East, all of our districts, our media and many other sources, whatever may be, will only speak on the bad that's happening. So me as a lighty and the outside world as well, are only hearing the bad, the bad, the bad. If you're only hearing the bad, what does that do to your psyche? What does that do to your motivation? What does that do to your passion? It makes it feel like it's a place of hopelessness. Whereas if we start putting out the proper stories, like if I tell somebody that you're ugly on the Monday, I tell him you're ugly on the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, the Friday, the Saturday, on the Sunday that light is going to believe that he's ugly. If we change the language around and we say, you were good, oh, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, on the Sunday that light is going to believe that he's a good, oh. The same way with the social media or whatever says Wentworth is bad. So everybody believes now Wentworth's bad. And things start with language. Imagine if we turn around and say Wentworth is a place of possibilities and hope.
Which is exactly why we started this podcast.
What would that do to the person's psyche? They would believe, yes, I would start to behave differently. We're responding to the names that we've been called.
Have you ever, I'm guessing you've taken children out of gangs, and stuff like that, right, through communicating with them. Have you ever experienced a situation where you've taken somebody out of a gang and that person's come a long way? There's a song that I'm reminded of by Tupac, it's called Changes. And then he says there's some punk that are roughed up way back, coming back after all these years. And it goes, rat, tat, 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 that's the way it is. So, have you ever had a situation like that where you've taken somebody out of that gang, they're doing well, but maybe the person that they were dealing with was inside, now they're outside, they came for revenge, and then this person is...
Consequences years later of the progress is what he's asking.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the catch. It doesn't mean because you changed your life around, everybody must just somehow forgive.
Yeah.
So with the projects that I do is that, and remember I spoke about that victim offender mediation earlier. Yeah. So if this bra wants to come out of what he's doing, and he's rehabilitating, it's in our role and responsibility to also deal with the people that surround him. And not all the people that surround him are positive, but he's got a mourner with that oh. My responsibility was then to bring those O's in and do this mediation kind of thing. If I cause the flop, I got to make up for my flop. What is it that O saying I got to do now to come and make peace? Maybe that just once, you when you came on my pose and you were rocking, you smashed all my windows. Fix those windows. And then we deal, let me say, all right, no stress, let's fix those windows. If you fluke this old lady, whatever, I'll bring the old lady in. This old got a responsibility now. If he acknowledges what he done is wrong, say, you know what, Ma, I hit a flop.
Yeah.
I am so sorry. I want to make things better. Maybe it's a granny, and the granny says, you know what? My yard is dirty, just in the metaphorical sense. Why don't you come and see me like every second week? You clean up, I cook for us, we have a juice. And it's about bringing people together. It's restoring the harm that was caused. I'm a strong believer in restorative justice. And restorative justice is how do we repair the harm that has been caused. So I'm not just going to deal with that Laiti that committed the crime or the offense. I'm going to deal with also the other people that surround him. And how do we deal? We do things together. Maybe that all got an issue. Maybe that all needs the help. So I say, come. We all part of this together. We don't want to see our people dying anymore. How do we make things better?
So how... Wait, I had another question. Just came back to me. I got a lot. As you're talking, there's so many questions coming to my mind.
No,
but
Chunix.
I want to talk about the root. Let me not say the main issue, but you do bring up gangsterism a lot, and that's obviously the biggest thing plaguing our communities. You also emphasize on how you grew up in a loving home. So, one, would you say that gangsterism is solely because of broken homes, or is it just a majority cause? And two, broken homes or absentee parentism? Absentee parentism. I'm saying this word wrong. No parents, absent parents.
Yeah.
Let me say that. Which is the main one? Is it a broken home where there is a family, but things are in a mess? Or there's a home where it's not a complete family and they feel that sense of longing, they feel that sense of something's missing that makes them turn to gangsterism in your experience?
Combination.
Remember that when I speak about broken home, it doesn't mean that a home is broken because there's no father or mother. Every child, all they need is one loving, caring person in their life. It could be an auntie, it could be an uncle, it could be a grandfather, it could be a grandmother. It doesn't necessarily mean because there's no father that home is broken. The reason why a lot of gangs exist is because young people want to find that sense of belonging. And I'm not even speaking about those that choose to exploit our community. Because you see our O's that are running around on the street, there's that one O that's higher than them, and there's that other O. You check? So a lot of things is brought on by greed and by power.
Yeah.
And when our young people then, look in our districts, there's always that old driving a lacquer cab. Oh, got a thick throbbers on his neck. I mean, the rings, they got all these things. The Lighties want to aspire to that. And they want to aspire to that because sometimes there's something absent here in their life. They see these O's driving around, getting all the stickies. They got this, they got that. These Lighties are seeing these O's as a role model. I'm saying, if we bring fathers in, if we bring other people, mentors in, I'm just looking at the possibilities, the hope of you bring somebody else in that can kind of counter this.
Yeah.
Stand alongside it. You carry on doing what you want to do as a drug lord, as a gangster. I'm going to do my thing, what I need to do. But if Lighties cross floors to come here, but me don't have a prachi with me. Don't have a prachi. We got craft to do. We got to take care of our people, look after our people. One of the main reasons, and I'll go through it very quickly, belonging. Our children don't feel as if they belong in their home. Sometimes children that are parts of gangs also come from what we refer to as good homes. But a lot of our young people come from homes where there's really very much nothing. The other thing is mastery. Our young people need to be able to learn how to do something good, master an art. Our Lighties are getting applauded when they shoot somebody. Social media with these TikToks and Instagrams, it kind of praises these Lighties that are carrying all of these weapons and selling drugs. These Lighties look good. They're tuning a span. They look like lions. They're dominant. They're confident. They're learning a skill in the most distorted kind of way. Whereas I'm saying to parents, I'm saying to community, when last did you fill that Ogle Road grounds or Highbury grounds to come and watch your Lightie play soccer? How much did you invest in terms of developing skills within your Lightie? If our Lighties don't become good at something good, they become good at something bad. The other part is generosity. We think when we're graphing and when we buy Levi's jeans or we're buying Jordans for our Lighties, we're loving our Lighties. The one thing that's more important than all of that is how do you show your child love? I ask parents and community quite often, how often do you say to your laity, you are the best thing that has ever happened to me. I love you. You are an amazing, beautiful child. Because we know our children don't hear that positive reinforcement constantly, hence the reason why they go and look for it in other ways. That's why our laities today don't know how to form meaningful relationships. This is why our laities are raping and abusing and doing all of these things, because they don't know the appropriate sense of sharing love, of care. And the last one is independence. If we don't have boundaries in our homes, what makes us think that our laities are going to vie out there and obey the law? If we don't have boundaries, you see, most laities that are doing the most things wrong, ask them what they need. They needed security because rules provide security.
Yeah,
so my laities know.
The rod.
Yeah.
Spoil the child.
100%. My laities know there's boundaries. There's certain things. My laities are not my bras. I'm their father. There will be consequences for things that you choose when you want to go outside of the boundaries. And that's independence, being able to make a decision. And because these 4 things are sometimes lacking in our children and in our homes, our laities are then considered to be at risk. And if they are at risk, they become a risk to the community in some way or the other. One thing we're trying to do, basically what my calling, my passion, is to help build those 4 things in our laities, and even for some of our adults that I deal with, is to build that circle, to patch up where things might not necessarily be okay. And that's called the circle of courage. It's a way of trying to create, and in the sense of that, whether it's Buddha, whether it's Allah, whether it's Jesus Christ, whether it's whoever, at the sense of it, it's called it's spirituality. What is that spirit that drives you? Who are you guided by? So once those 4 things are repaired, and we are censored because we all belong to something, be it whatever religion, our children stand a chance. That's what my community fathers are doing, trying to build these 4 things up in the laities, so these laities can grow, these laities can love, these laities can be happy, they can be the best. For me, there are no limits. For me, I don't believe in limits. I believe in the impossible. That's my hope, because no matter what I go through, I also got a God. I got a God. No matter how much I feel weak, and sometimes I have a mourner with God, it's okay to have a pera with God. I have my pera, but at the end of the day, because I'm a child, I'm a child of my God. I'm a child of Jesus. No matter how much I fight with Him, I still know they got my back. And that's what gives me my hope. That I can walk into a district, I can walk wherever I smart to walk, because I'm going there with a pure and a genuine and a good heart. And when I go into that place, I will not be afraid. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. So with my graph, I will fear no evil, because the God above me is more mighty than the enemies that are in front of me. And if they even smart to take me out, then by all means, take me out.
Melissa is over in the Christian background.
You're having home sale here on
Oh, hey, holding something up.
But as you were saying,
But even if the O's want to take me out, then take me out. But when you shoot me and I fall on my knees, I'm not bowing down to you, my O. I'm saying thank you, Jesus, for this wonderful life I lived, and give me the opportunity to be in the life space of the people that I'm part of helping. With my peers, do what you need to do, but we're training people to stand in the place when we have fallen, and that's okay. But I don't want to die, because I am no good dead. I want to live. I don't want to save one life or be part of helping one life. Because imagine doing this graph for 30, 40 years or whatever, and you say, as long as I have saved one life, that's enough. No, then you are lazy mother. You're lazy. If in 30, 40 years you're doing this career, and you're part of this, and you've saved one life, no, Ma'o.
Yeah.
No, Ma'o. By the time I'm doing this 30, 40 years, and I'm using even in the wrong word, it's not about saving a life. It's about helping a life to see the possibilities and the hope and how things can be better, and working towards that. And you with other people here. Here's your safety side by side. That if you fall, I pick you up. If I fall, you pick me up.
People say, I'll die for you. No, I don't want you to die for me. Live for me. Show us a better life.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I have a question for you, right? How do you know the local councillors and all of that? You know, how do you work together? Because I know you spoke about taking it to governments and stuff. But before we even get there, we've got local.
Yeah, in the communities.
Yeah, like the the people.
Do you guys do work with them or?
So we work with local, provincial, national governments. I think when it comes to local, I mean, if we speak about our councillor, for that matter, councillor, I think community needs to understand the roles of a councillor. They need to understand what a councillor is supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. I believe that irrespective of what the political party may be, if a political party is elected in that specific ward, stop all your crap and support the person that is in power now. But what happens is that everybody pulls away, everybody's busy with their own little parties, and instead of trying to make the community better and support the councillor in the community's endeavors, we're all fighting each other. And as a result of fighting each other, who's the one that gets hurt? There's an old African saying, when elephants fight, the grass gets hurt. So we've got all of our powerful community leaders and that are opposing the councillor. By all means, in the political sense, do what you need to do if you believe you can do a better job. But what does it look like in all those energies you're investing in trying to fight a councillor and tell him that he's not doing his craft? What does that look like if you work with the councillor? Because if you choose to work with the councillor, making our community better, then your heart is in the right place. It's pure. I don't care what party. What party? Be it DA, ANC, IFP, CCC, PA, you name it. I don't care what party. But whoever's elected there, do your graph and help that out.
So as an example of what you're trying to say, I'm trying to put it into a picture, right, for the viewers. There was a person that was complaining about the grass there by Adams hadn't been cut. And they blamed the Wainsford councillor not doing nothing. Wainsford pool was open for, I think, December period. It rained, the water went green. Obviously, the water's going to go green. They closed the pool. They blamed the councillor for that. You know what I mean? Is that something the councillor is responsible for in the first place? And number two, how do we help the councillor? Do we say, don't worry, Mr. Councillor, we'll take our lawnmowers and cut? Because there was a guy who actually said he did that. He cut his small patch there between his section of the road, whatever. Obviously, we don't expect him to do all that. But is that how you work with the councillor? How does it look when you say you work with the councillor? And is the council responsible for those things that they complain about?
Yes, by all means, the council is responsible of bringing in those kinds of services to ensure that the community is clean and neat and tidy, and lights are seen to, the drainage and all of those things. But it's also the community's responsibility to call in to the various social networks, complaint services or whatever. If 100 of us phone in and say the grass has not been cut, then of course, then somebody's going to respond. But if I'm going to say on a WhatsApp group or Facebook, the grass has not been cut.
The Windsor community page.
Yes.
Windsor represents, that's where everybody goes.
Yeah. Then if the community, if all the community says, instead of sending it to one person or two people, that my grass is not cut, call the relevant services, call whoever, and let them do their job. Put pressure on the council. The council has a role and a responsibility of ensuring that services are sufficient and provided to the community, but the community also has a role to play. And that's when meeting the councillor halfway. Because imagine one man dealing with 57,000 people.
That's what he signed up for.
He signed up for there, and then there's the ward committees. You know what I did one time? I was also getting dick of people complaining on social media. They're saying, which party we're going to vote for? Which party? Then they started dissing certain parties. So I said, you know what you all need to do, people? I called I made a post, and it was called Let's Talk. And I invited all the political parties to the community hall. And whoever needed information as to who they must vote for, come through. Hear what these people got to say face to face. And then I asked the question, after that event, I said to them, so if you don't get elected, then what happens? All those promises you made to the community, you're just going to stop. And so when a certain party was elected, the rest of the people stopped. So my question is, then was your heart in the right place? Do I need to belong to a structure? Do I need to be on a platform to be able to serve my community? I should have been wanting to do it regardless of whether I got voted in or not. So imagine if those 13 political parties that I had sitting on the stage that day, and I was asking them questions, those 13 political parties, imagine if they worked together, if they had worked. Yes, they belong to a thing called the war room, and where they discuss issues A, B, and C, but there's not enough representation of them to come part and help the community enough. Done.
Yo. There is work to be done. That is... Bro, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, my bro.
That was very more than insightful, inspiring. Maybe I'll leave you a little bit of hope. Maybe I'll wake up tomorrow with some hope.
That's the intention.
But for now, before we go, where can people who want to get in touch with you find you? If not on your Thursday show at Happy Valley Radio, where else can they get in touch with you?
Well, I'm actually thinking. I'm also on social media. I got Facebook.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I should give out my telephone number.
You can. Yeah, maybe you can say your DMs are open for people to get in touch with you, and you can take it from there.
People that are wanting to support the work that we do.
Yeah.
People that are willing to join up. We've got so many organizations in the community that are doing awesome work, and we need to shine lights on the work that has been done in our community. Doing great work. Leave out all of the politics and the stories we hear. Walk into that organization and ask yourself, how can I add value? So I've got Facebook. I've got an email address as well.
We'll put it all in the description for you.
Sure.
We'll show people where to get a hold of you. Yeah. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. This was probably one of the most insightful episodes we've had on all 4 of our seasons. Please like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
Peace.